This is the fourth in our series on the wedding at Cana, and our text has been John chapter 2. Today we are examining verses 6 and 7. In verses 6 and 7, Jesus Christ instructs the servants to get 6 stone water jars there, the kind that is used, by the Jews for ceremonial washing. And this is very significant for a number of reasons. Number one, the material that is used here is stone and not clay. According to Levitical purity laws, you see that in Leviticus 11 verse 33, if an earthy vessel clay pot became ceremonial unclean, it had to be broken and thrown away. However, stone, was impervious to ritual defilement. And because the stone vessels could not contract ritual impurity, they were highly priced, expensive, and therefore out of the reach of the average home. And so by using stone jars, Jesus ensured that the containers themselves were legally and culturally synonymous with the Old Testament system of law and purity. That is very important. Amen. The second key point here is the number 6, because he asked them to take 6. In biblical numerology, of course, 7 stands for perfection, completeness, and divine, while the number 6 itself, being short of 1, symbolizes human weakness, imperfection, and incompleteness. And so the presence of 6 jars basically highlight that the system of ritual purification in the Old Testament was incomplete, and that's a fact. Amen. It could temporarily cleanse the outside of a person, just like the Old Testament laws could cleanse the outside, but it lacked the power to completely transform or bring true spiritual fulfillment. It was a system that was waiting for its completion. Amen. The third key point here in this particular verse is the volume. Of course, there was overwhelming abundance. Now, John mentions that each bar held 2 or 3 measures, which translates to roughly 20 or 30 gallons apiece. And when you combine this together, it means that the 6 jars held 120 to 180 gallons of water. Now, when Jesus turned this water into wine, he didn't just provide a small amount to help the family scrape through. Instead, he provided an astonishing, amount of wine. In the Old Testament, you see prophets, like Joel, like Amos and Joel and so on, talking about an abundant outpouring, of the blessings of God. This is basically what Jesus has demonstrated here by asking them to fill these jars, with water. And by the time he had turned them into wine, it was more than sufficient for the guests that were available even at that wedding to partake of. Amen. We're going to pause at this point, and when we return, we move on to the next verse. God bless you.